Cool.
Check this out.
And share screen.
Mhm. Okay, all you active.
Okay, welcome everyone. If you don't know where you're at, you've landed at the Three Jewels in New York City, a mini training, 3 courses, 60 hours worth of an overview of all Buddhist thought, the great ideas of Buddhism. And you're exactly halfway through. You're right in the middle. Yeah. So we're entering last week, we began this investigation into death, what happens at death, and what happens beyond death from a Buddhist perspective. Yeah. And to preempt that, or to summarize last week's class, if I can, um, understanding that karma and emptiness are the key to experiencing a reality as it really is, not as the human bias sees it, then the work we have to do to transform our lives and our experience of being is work on the kind of imprints we place in our minds through what we think, say, and do, karma. Because things ultimately don't have the nature that they appear to have, they are empty of that nature, then everything we do matters because that is what's giving things that nature. The human experience of reality is just the human slice. And based on last class, you would have heard about the other slices of existence. We can verify the animal realm, for example, having a very different experience of the same reality we share. The reality we share from its own side doesn't have the nature we experience. That experience comes from us. Predicated on that, we're looking at if things are imprints in our minds projecting our reality, what would the projection of death and dying be like, and what would result from it? So I think that's the best way I can say what this course is or what it's pointing to. But like every class, we begin with a dedication, an offering of this thing called the mandala, where we imagine a perfected universe where everyone's mind has reached an ultimate understanding and there's zero suffering. But in its place, there's just unstoppable bliss for every sentient creature. So we imagine that with this mudra, which signifies the universe. And then we offer it to that thing that would ignite in us understanding and wisdom. So I'll head it and feel free to follow, but muted, please. So if you're on, make sure you're muted, so there's no echoes while we do it. Saji Pugi Jishin Metok Drum Riral Ling Shin Yende Gimpati Sange Ashindu Amite Guargi Drogun Namda Shinla Shupar Sho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryatayami Sange Shudang Zogi Jognam La Janshu Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Chinyangi Petsanam Ki Drola Panjir Sange Drupal Sho Sange Judang Zoki Jognam La Janshu Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Jinyangi Pesanam Ki Drolaban jir sange drupar sho sange judang zoki joknam lan janchu bardu dakni kyapsu chi daki jinyang gi pesanam ki Rola Panjir Sange Drupar Sho. Okay, let's get started. Before we get started, I'm going to invite every one of you to please, whatever normal thing you've got going on about you being this person and life being the way you think it is, please invite it to piss off for the next 2 hours. Like push it outside the window, door, I don't care where, but don't allow normal to follow you here. A different state of mind should investigate the biggest thing you can investigate, your own mind. And, and to begin that, I want to go through the Wheel of Life painting, which is actually the first painting ever painted of the Buddha. And he directed the painting. There's a long story, won't cover it today, but coded in this painting, which you'll see the Buddha in the top right-hand corner, is samsara, nirvana, all the realms of existence, the causes for that realm, misunderstanding, freedom, and instructions on how to get out of suffering. It's coded in iconography. It's profound. It's stunning. There's courses and courses on it, and it's a thing common to all Buddhist schools. Any Buddhist school from Hinayana, Mahayana, everyone relates to this and the teachings in it. And so I just want to point to it because we're talking about the realms of existence. I want to point to it that you can always go to this painting as a reference point to understand what realms are. And so Priya did a great job last week in linking it to how we should perceive of it. But I'd like to invite you to think about really what Buddhists think or should think if they studied enough in relation to what a realm is. I invite you to consider that if the idea of karma and emptiness are true, and to summarize, emptiness means reality as we experience it is not that way from its own side, separate to you, right? And that I've always used the pen as an example. That object isn't radiating out pen because puppy dogs see it as chew toy. If the object was radiating out pen, then every sentient looking at that object would be forced to experience it as pen and pen only. So there is no penness coming from that object. Where is it coming from? It must be coming from us, and chew toy from the puppy. And that is what reality is in those two realms, the animal realm and the human realm. If you get that understanding, and I'm going to assume we did because we just did a bunch of courses on it, the pen is just a metaphor for absolutely everything without exception. Your conception of yourself as a human, your conception of your personality, your conception of the bite of food that you think is nourishing you. It makes someone vomit. It makes someone sick. Nothing has the quality that we think it does. And so there's a ton of learning to be had from the human side of the world to try and conceive of reality as it is without the human lens. Can I get thumbs up if you're understanding what I'm saying or I'm sounding like a lunatic? Okay, good. If you're understanding that everything, without exception, is empty of the nature we perceive it to have, it doesn't mean it's not that. Pens are pens for humans. They're chew toys for dogs. Therefore, the penness is coming from my mind. The chew toyness is coming from their mind. If that's so, then death is the same. When we go through a process, it's empty of a nature of being a death, whatever the hell you will be forced to experience it as. It doesn't have that nature. That nature comes from the mind's going through that process. That's trippy, but we need to think of that from a Buddhist perspective. And just like I keep using the example that our eyes can only capture some 5% or a small percentage of the light spectrum that we could measure through other instruments, that there is ultraviolet and all this UV light and all this other stuff that we cannot perceive. It exists, but we are locked in to a corner of reality, a realm of existence called the human realm that has no access in direct perception of what is really there in terms of light and sound and taste and touch and every other thing. Do we have that so far? If that's so, it's possible that we're locked in some corner of existence, which we call the desire realm, and I'll cover it here. This is the desire realm, where we're driven by desires, and it fabricates a certain projection. And it doesn't have to be that way. To wake up to Buddha is to see this desire realm or samsara or any realm that you're locked into because of your past seeds, to wake up to the fact that it's a projection and therefore you can transform it. If you know what caused the projection, you would get to work at planting just the right seeds. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. Someone went, ta-da. Okay. That's another way of putting it. The defect, so I see a lot of people grabbing Buddhist thought to make their shitty lives better, okay? And go ahead, do that, no problem. But you're gonna die. Go for that one. Not the martinis or the paint on the wall. Go ahead, enjoy the paint on the wall, the new car, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the sexy time, the dulce de leche. Go ahead and live a fulfilled, meaningful life. You can use seeds to do that. But if you don't know how long you've got, use this precious moment where you recognize you're locked into a corner of existence that isn't reality. And if you can conceive of it mentally, reach for that reality. Transform death and dying. It doesn't have to be what it is. And just saying it doesn't mean it's easy, okay? Like, we can understand it, but it's like, oh my God. So then a lifelong practice would be going to transforming the seeds that make you think you're normal. Because if you're empty of being human, or this type of human, or a depressed human, or a dying human, if you know the causes, you could transform that. It's radical. And it's amazing. Once I actually heard it, I had to hear the words hundreds of times, but once I actually heard it, everything had meaning. Everything. Even the most stupid memes had meaning. I could transform the way I looked at them as inviting me on a path to awakening. Yeah. Okay, why am I telling you that? Because even the most shitty defectiveness is transformable if it's empty of a nature. Even the most yucky part of you is transformable. And if not transformable, it must end once its causes disappear. And that gives us hope, right? And then what will be in place of it? And then what will happen to this consciousness that perceives reality once the physical part that holds it is gone, or too decrepit to move, or too decrepit to say something, you know? For those of you, sorry, now I'm going to go on a tangent. Sorry, Sabriya. For those of you, she's like, you got no time. I'm going to do it quick. For those of you who were at the 3 Joules meditation graduation, teacher training graduation this weekend, I disappeared in the middle of the graduation because I had an episode where I thought I was having a heart attack and I got taken to a hospital, and then I went to ER and I came back at 1 a.m. And then I just disappeared halfway through celebrating 200 hours of training, you know, and not only did I disappear and left everyone hanging, and then all the 3 Joules people took care of each other, and it was really amazing to see. And I got all the tests and I'm good. It was something else. Yeah, maybe I slept weird on my neck and I had a pinched nerve, and it gave me numbness on the arm. It gave me a headache and all the signs of a heart attack, but it wasn't. But they took until 1 in the morning to figure that out. So where did I go? I went to an emergency room in at Mount Sinai. And in the emergency room, there were realms. There were realms this close to death. And there were people dying. And there were people screaming. And there were people begging for help. And there were people unable to say anything. But like I spent from 1 in the afternoon, from 2 in the afternoon to 12 at night, roughly, in a room, in and out of machines, getting tested. And I'm joyful. I'm elated. I'm like, I know how to do death. I've got all my practices. I've got 25 years of practice. Look for the magic. Look for the signs. Look for think of all the goodness you've ever done. And I'm enjoying the possibility that this would be the last day, right? So I'm having a good time, and I'm making jokes, inappropriate jokes in the emergency room. Yeah, with doctors and so on. They think I'm a little weird, and that's okay. But there's real realms going on in the bed next door to me. There's real suffering going on. And they're projections, like mine are projections. But when you don't know they're projections, they are solid, real, palpable experiences that you think you're locked into forever. Yeah. And they will lead to a reality similar to the state of mind you've generated. You're generating fear and anger and frustration, and that's the state of mind that flips over into the next life. And that's what projects a body that sustains that kind of existence, suffering, fear, or craving. I want my things. I want my things. Yeah. So I got to actually live for a short time this very powerful visceral reality that you all must go through if you haven't already. Really face death as it is. But if you have the wisdom that understands where it comes from, it does not have to be a suffering. And I don't mean, joyfully get your arm chopped off. It's not like that. It means you would be forced to experience the whole thing in a different way. It's not like I'm choosing to see a shitty thing good. That's a practice to get to a point where you're forced to see what would otherwise have been a shitty thing as a powerful transformation. For real, not pretend. So anyway, I want to share that with you. Let me show you where in this magic painting the four truths, the four noble truths or Arya truths exist, and how the Buddha sliced in his teaching of this painting. When he designed the painting and taught the painters how to put things together, he hid in these four powerful ideas that your world doesn't have to be what it is. The first truth that the Buddha spoke is life is suffering. And you learned about the three sufferings last week, Supriya. Did you do that? No?
No, but we talked about the six sufferings.
Right. So they're probably similar. The suffering of suffering that, like backache, headache, the suffering of change, all of a sudden you're in a 200-hour teacher training with people you absolutely love, and then you're not. And then you're like, what do I do now? Like that change, if you're not sure where it comes from, will cause some suffering in you. Yeah. Losing what you like and being pushed towards things you don't like. And then even if you don't have those two, this thing called the all-pervasive suffering, which is really the most simple way that I can explain it is just being constantly dissatisfied. You'll always want more. Once you get everything you thought you needed, within an hour, you're like, but what if I could have more? Yeah, everything is colored that way in this realm. And it's called the desire realm for that thing. We desire nonstop. Yeah, mostly sex and food. In my case, it's mostly food. No, it's sex and food. Anyway, that's an image for you. Good. And then, so the first thing Buddha said is, don't get fooled. It's honey on a razor blade. Life is suffering. If you haven't figured it out yet, hurry up and figure it out before it figures you out, before you find yourself in an emergency room and you don't know what got you there. Whilst you're healthy, whilst things are going good, don't get attached to them, because that's what will cause you some suffering. Enjoy them, but don't think that's your happiness, because you'll be wrong. You'll suffer. Yeah? Change, or you'll suffer the suffering of, or pervasive suffering or whatever. Make sense? And that is described here by that big red monster, which is impermanence, grips of death on everything in that cycle. That cycle is samsara, coming and going of beings from little moments to big lifetimes. Life after life, sentient beings come and go, take all sorts of forms, and they're the realms inside here. They come in 6 flavors: gods, demigods, humans, animals, ghost realms, and hell realms, which we'll cover some today. So Buddha said, look, if you can have an experience of a human, and then you can have a suffering of an animal where you're hunted or whatever in the same world, you can have even a worse and a worse, so ghost or hell realm, or you can have a best or better, yeah? Devas and asuras, gods and demigods. But all of them must end and come to being and end and come to being without stop until you realize it's a projection, until you can pull yourself out of the thing that produces the cycle in the first place, which is the center of this wheel. So the monster signifies impermanence. It destroys everything that comes and goes, right? And the big center there is divided into 6 realms, which is really 5: devas, asuras, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and they all have qualities and so on. There's courses we can dig into it. But really what we should think here is like, listen, all of these things, doesn't matter how nice, they end in suffering. Don't get attached to them. Yeah. Then the next Arya truth he said was, there's a course to that suffering. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. And if you look at the very center, this is where you've got misunderstanding or ignorance depicted by a pig. And from the pig's mouth comes 2 animals, a dove or a rooster and a snake. And the dove or the rooster is pecking, want, desire. And I want. Because I don't understand the pig, misunderstanding, that things are my projection, because I think things come that way, then I want dulce de leche out there. I want this out there. And then I create all sorts of problems in my wanting. Or I don't want, which is the second animal that comes out of the pig's mouth, which is a snake. It sheds its skin all the time. I don't want, sheds its skin. It's like, I don't want this. I don't want problems. I don't want this. I don't want that. And we're forever, because we think things exist out there, we're forever trying to manipulate the things out there to get what we want and avoid what we don't want. But it's based on misunderstanding. And therefore, the results must be broken, must also include misunderstanding and break. Does that make some sense? At least psychologically, yeah? And so that in more detail, that's like the axis, the thing that spins these cycles that come into being and break because we didn't create the right courses, because we misunderstood the action. So I want ice cream. I push the old lady out of the way to get my ice cream. And I think I've reached my happiness. I had ice cream. I did not see I planted a suffering by pushing the old bag out of the way to get my ice cream. And now I must get pushed out of the way when I'm an old bag over and over and over to oversimplify it, right? To oversimplify it. The imprint I put in my mind wasn't going for the ice cream and getting the ice cream. That's the result of some other good karma in the past. The karma I just planted by pushing someone out of the way was creating suffering. And I did not know it. That's my misunderstanding. And so I now have an association in my karma between enjoying ice cream and being pushed out of the way. And I don't know why next time I go for ice cream, I fall on my face or whatever the story is. I'm again oversimplifying to try and get the idea. Our actions that we do towards getting things that we want and avoid things we don't want are planting seeds of what we're actually doing and thinking in the moment. Nothing to do with what we want or don't want. And that's the big mistake. That's a big misunderstanding. That's what gets us in trouble. That's what creates results that we don't understand where they come from. We don't understand what we're planting. And so the wisdom that understands that, which is emptiness understanding and karma understanding, can reverse or stop this cycle. Now, the 12 links they call the 12 links of dependent origination around the circle. I won't cover them in detail, but they are the cause of all the suffering we experience, just like I just described. I didn't know that pushing someone out of the way to get what I wanted was planting my suffering. I caused it, and I didn't know. And then karma grows, multiplies every 24 hours. So a little push to someone will result in a big push, a push that could crush my life within this lifetime. Forget lifetimes. Do we get that in our heads? So can I get nods or something? So in this painting, there's the suffering, the causes of suffering, but then there's also this beautiful, like pristine, clear circle on the top left-hand corner that's often depicted as a moon, but it was just a plain, pristine, unstained circle. And that's nirvana or enlightenment. Outside the grips of samsara, outside the cycles, a perception outside the ups and downs that are driven by misunderstanding. Nirvana, enlightenment, Buddhahood, all this state of mind which understands where things are. Yeah. And that is produced. So there is a cessation to suffering, which is depicted as the moon, and that's created by Supriya. The path to that, which is the Buddha on the top right-hand side pointing at the moon, saying, you want to get over there, get out of that circle, go over there, reach nirvana, reach enlightenment, reach and Buddhahood by following what I saw when I reached enlightenment. Realize that what you do creates imprints, and those imprints create your reality. Like, understand karma and emptiness. And there's this beautiful description in the bottom there that you see, that in authentic, or the wheels of lives which are well reproduced, describe how once you get this understanding, you would crush death. He says, destroy the forces of death like an elephant crushing a house of reeds. He's like, once you get the understanding of what to take up and what to give up, what actions to do and what actions not to do, once you understand karma and emptiness, you can't be a shithead anymore. Like, once you understand that every single thing you think, say, and do must produce your future reality beyond this life, you are forced to stop being bad. That's where morality or ethics and religion really comes from. It's not like thou shalt, it's like, what do you want to produce in your future? And so we're sort of forced to create nothing but goodness and kindness and genuine connection out of selfish interest. Take care of everyone out of selfish interest. If you want out of suffering, do whatever it takes to help everyone else stop suffering. And so the Buddha says at the end, like, there's lots of paths, the eight noble paths, or the three principal paths. There's all this scripture that says what to do, what are all the practices. But the key to those practices, what makes them work, is the understanding of projections and emptiness, karma and emptiness. And you'll see that at the bottom of the thing. And then you'll be able to say, and it says there, the Buddha says there, you'll be able to crush death, like stop impermanence completely, as easy as an elephant would crush a house of reeds, which are hollow and easy to break for an elephant. It would be that simple for you. Did you want me to cover anything else in the realms there? No? So, summary, understanding these mechanics, don't believe the realm you're in. It's just a projection. It's real, but it doesn't have to be just Michelle, like I see Michelle, or Deirdre, like I see Deirdre. Yes, Deirdre's hand picks up the cup of tea, yeah? But if you're remembering, if you're not misunderstanding that there's a hand out there forcing itself into your mind, but instead some goodness in your mind created a dexterous hand that was able to pour liquid into your being for sustenance, that's awesome karma. And its potential that it could be more than just a human hand. And when you begin to work with those conceptions, you're planting very different seeds. And then there's all these practices in Buddhist thought to transform a state of normal to a state of extraordinary. Yeah. I think that's the point of these ideas. So Priya, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And you actually just took us exactly where we need to go. He said the word sustenance, and that thing that we think we're consuming for a particular result. And that's exactly where we're going next. This little nugget, it seems like a random part of this course almost, right? Like a random teaching, but it's from the Abhidharma Kosha. We talked about that text last time, this incredible treasure house of Buddhist cosmology and the details of how karma works. And every time I expose myself to this teaching, I hear something new. So there's something to it. It's not just a list of 4 things, but it is. So it's the 4 types of sustenance. We're going to go through them, and then we'll talk about why. So the 4 types of things that we consume for a particular result. You can think about it that way. The things we think will sustain us. So the first one's pretty obvious. It's called portion sustenance. It comes in 2 flavors. One is something more subtle, like smells. If you remember last week when we talked about hungry ghosts or pretas or craving spirits, sometimes they're called, or no, I'm sorry, when we talked about the bardo beings, sometimes they're called smell eaters. The idea being that they can subsist just on smells, or if you cut smells into their parts, on sniffs. So those would be the smell eaters. That would be the subtle portion sustenance. And then the gross portion sustenance, which Maya and Diego are demonstrating beautifully. It's physical food that we put into our bodies.
Can I
Not
add
gross in that I'm sure it's delicious because Maya made it. It's just it has a physical form, right? So that's the first type. Second one.
Can I add something for those that are doing the more advanced trainings or more advanced teachings? When you see nectar there, that's referring to dutsi, right? Which is the capacity to get sustenance from what might be ambrosia. It might not be perceived as gross food. So it's in relation to your dutsi practice, just for those that have that practice.
Thank you. Number 2 and 3, I actually want to talk about it together. It sounds confusing, stained contact and stained movement of mind. So Hector used the word unstained, right? When he was speaking about that thing that could look like the moon, the thing the Buddha is pointing to, something unstained and perfection, free of misunderstanding, free of the bounds of karma. So that should give you a clue as to what stained is, or what stained sustenance might cause, right? And it's this thing. So number 2 and 3, you can think about it as Mackenzie's favorite concept, main mind and mental function, right? Or think about it this way, stained contact, it's, you know the phrase like a horse never died a foot away from water? That's this idea. So for example, like hope would fall into this bucket. This thing in your mind that keeps you going even when you think you can't, right? You're never going to, a horse never died a foot away from water. You're going to do what you need to get there. And then stained movement of the mind, so for those who know the classical definition of karma, right? The movement of the mind and what follows. The what follows part is what we just covered, stained contact, right? The movement of the mind part is right there, stained movement of the mind. It's the thing that motivates all karma, mental karma, the movement of the mind. That's number 3. I promise I'm going to try to bring this all together. But the very last one, stained consciousness, that would be, we touched on this last week. See if you can identify the thing that would stay with you beyond the moment of death, or that has stayed with you since before the moment of this birth. That thing would be stained consciousness. It's the continuum of mind itself, the thing that doesn't get destroyed, even when the body gets destroyed, even when the personality gets separated from the body and all the possessions are meaningless. It's that thing. So this is all to say, the function of all these forms of sustenance, unexamined, right? And so unexamined, these forms of sustenance and the things that we do to obtain them, or to keep that, or to keep them going, to get more of them, to be close to them, that the function of them is to perpetuate this suffering life. It's like what Hector showed in the visual, the cogs that are turning the wheel, the engine that's powering the wheel. The thing that's moving you from link to link in dependent origination is the way we relate to these types of sustenance. So this is not to say, and I fell into this mistake of like, okay, well, if portion sustenance is perpetuating my suffering life, I should stop consuming things. Maybe I don't need to eat things. You're telling me that I don't need this type of sustained sustenance in order to go on, right? That's not what this is saying. Until I have the karma to need food to nourish myself, I have that karma, right? But the only thing that could transform that experience, that forced experience, that projection, is, like Hector said, every time I actually consume something, I'm doing something in my mind to relate to it. So it's not just, let me get another meal, let me get another hit, let me do whatever I need to do to hurt myself or others to get that thing to nourish me. That is just going to keep the karma going of being in a body that needs to be nourished by things that keep me in a body that needs to be nourished. Cycle continues on. But while I have that impulse, that habit, that need to feed myself, why not transmute it in that very moment? That should give you an idea of why it's a practice to say grace before a meal. Right? It's been ritualized, it's been formalized as just this thing you do. But if you think about it through this lens, if you could take a moment before you start shoveling food, or so I'll speak for myself. If I could take a moment before I start shoveling food into my mouth and think about the fact that maybe in eating this, I will have the energy to serve other people and to think about someone that's not just myself. Then I've transformed that experience, and that sustenance no longer has to be this type of stained sustenance that keeps me in a stained experience. So that would be the takeaway I want you to take from this, and not as much what exactly those four are. Okay.
So good, Supriya. Thank you. So good.
Thank you. It's your words regurgitated. Okay,
I did great.
you did. So this, I hope one day you all can come to the Three Jewels Cafe. You will see this painting in all of its glory. And the whole bottom half of it depicts the hell realms. So last week we touched on the animal realm, the human realm, the hungry ghost realm, even gods and demigods. We conveniently skipped over the hell realms. We're going to dive in there now. It shows you here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, the hot hells, there's 8 of them, and the cold hells, there's 8 of them. They're stacked one on top of the other. But remember, there's no construction crew that created these stacked hell realms. So I hope as you hear this, because it can be hard to hear, right? So the mind might want to just be like, oh, this is a hypothetical teaching. This is a figurative hell realm. But here's what I'll invite you to do. Consider someone else's existence right here, right now on this planet. Like, I'm pretty sure this is true. I think there's more people on this planet that don't know where their next meal is going to come from than those who do. I think that's true. I mean, there's so many examples. If you can just imagine the unfathomable conditions in which people live on this planet, that's here in the human realm. And if there's that much gradation between the life I experience and the life that they have to go through, why can't that gradation be even more? Right? It can be so bad here, like it's hard to even think about what people have to go through. So why couldn't it be more? Right? And there's a good side, there's the positive side to this too. It means the opposite is also true. But for now, we're focusing on this, and it should bring up fear. It should bring up a sense of like cold water being splashed on your face of like, whoa, I need to think about this and do something about this before it's too late. That is actually the minimum motivation to be a Buddhist practitioner. Hector touched on it, but it's not, the minimum motivation is not, I want to have a marginally better experience of this broken realm. a marginally better experience of samsara. Actually, minimum motivation is I understand that unexamined, I will be forced to take life over and over again, and I don't want to take a crappier one than the one I have now. I certainly don't want to go to the hell realms. That's actually minimum motivation, to get on your cushion, to do yoga, to be kind, any of it. So we're not, oh gosh, that was too fast.
And can I add a second? What
Yeah.
it means is, if experience is a projection through what you say, think, and do, your karmas, the seeds you're planting in your mind, you actually have the you are the one that draws the doorway into heaven or hell, to put it in Christian terms, or bliss or torment, or humanness, over and over. It doesn't just happen. It's not guaranteed. It's a result of something. And we're forever planting that something. And the same thing can be hell for one and bliss for another. And that's what we're doing. That's the practice. And that's why the minimum motivation is like, oh my goodness, what am I putting in my seed bank that will generate my future world?
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. It's like what we said last time, where it's not hard to see that the animal realm is right here. Those are two simultaneous realities happening, right? In the room that you're in right now, especially if you have a pet, it's very obvious. What we're saying is that these hell realms, they're also right there. There is nowhere you need to go. It is just a shift in the movements of your mind. It's actually just three mental shifts. First, it's the shift of, oh, I'm dying. Second, it's the shift of, oh, I'm in a bardo realm. I'm in an intermediate experience. Third shift, oh, I'm in a hell realm. And it's that easy if you can start to think about things as, oh, it's not that the Zoom call has ended, it's that my karma for this Zoom call has run out. If you can apply that lens to everything, this starts to become very possible, if not certain, unless we do something about it. So what I was saying here is, if you're interested in knowing the details of each of these levels of hell, we teach it in ACI 8. So I think I shared the video to that, but we went into detail over in the summer, and I think it's important, but you can get a lot out of it just by reading the titles of what they are, if you can imagine the type of existence that they describe. So they get from torment to more torment as you go down the levels from 1 to 8, the hot hells and the cold hells. And remember, it's not that there are scary demons running around. It's not about the decorations of hell that make it hell. It's the states of mind that these things put you into, right? Imagine really popping up in a universe where you're naked, freezing cold, and everyone around you, you hate them. Like, imagine the hell that your mind would be in. Or they'll describe things like you're given the option of just 2 rooms, right? And every time you're in one, you think that the other one will be better, so you're running over there, and then you find that that one's worse, so you're running back and you're ping-ponging between these hells. Imagine the state of mind, right? That's the thing that creates hell. So that's here for you. I forget the exact homework question. It might just be list out the hot hells, of which there are 8. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving along. Yeah, we get a little trippy here. Before we get into the death meditation stuff, we're gonna talk a little bit about time. So this is a subject that's covered in the Abhidharma Kosha, the source text for where we're studying this stuff. And I'll try to make it relatable, like, so that it's not just something that's interesting to think about, because it's not. Here, time comes in because of the question of, how long does it take to become a Buddha? How long does it take to get out of the cycle, right? And I guess the one caveat I want to say before we dive into all of this, in case you're wondering, is time empty of a nature? Yes, it is. And I think it's actually one of the easiest things to prove to yourself that it's empty of a nature, because think about what happens to time when you're on a deadline, right? Versus really bored. Or think about what happens to time when you're in the presence of someone you love. Like, it shifts. The experience of 1 hour can feel radically different. So yes, time is absolutely empty of a nature and it's a force projection. Does that make it real? Yes, that's exactly what makes it real. That's why we're talking about it. So here, how long does it take to become a Buddha? The Abhidharmakosha says, one must accumulate merit and wisdom for 3 countless great eons. So let's break that down. First, how long is 3 countless great eons? You get some math right here. So countless is 10 to the 60th, and a great eon is 1.28 trillion years. I felt like doing a little bit of math for you all. So just in case this helps, just to put it into context, because it's like, oh, okay, it's a really big number. But that amount of time, actually not even 3 countless great eons, just 1 great eon is 18.5 times the amount of time from when dinosaurs went extinct to right now. So take that amount of time, multiply it by 18, and then multiply it by 10 to the 60th. It's that long. Like we're talking just to, I hope that your mind can kind of be like, wait, what? It's hard to even fathom. And it's not just that it takes that amount of time, right? During that time, you have to be accumulating merit and wisdom. So what are merit and wisdom? We say those words when we do our dedication prayer, right? Where we say, I want to give away the accumulation of merit and wisdom. What is that? We've touched on it in a bit. I'm going to start with wisdom. It's the E word. It's emptiness. It's any time you try to understand emptiness, meditate on it, study it, share it with another person. Be that person who over dinner is being like, what is this? Is it really a knife? That's what I do on dates. Or anytime you look at anything in your world and for a second you think, before just out of mental reflex engaging with it, you think, wait, this doesn't have to be the way I see it to be. It doesn't have to be that way. And do something differently. That's emptiness. That's your wisdom practice. And merit, here's a way to think about merit. Merit is what happens when you inject your karmic practice with wisdom. Right? It's the difference between giving something to someone, being like, cool, I'm going to give this to you, and in like 24 hours, that means I'm going to get a return because karma expands. Right? It's better than doing it mindlessly, but that's karma with a bit of self-existence, right? With a bit of what am I going to get out of it, and using karma. If you use karma enough, it's just going to end up using you. Instead, what you do is you inject your karma with your understanding of emptiness. That's why we talked about the 3 spheres. That's where the perfections come into place. And that transforms karma, this stained thing, into something unstained, into merit, into the thing that creates your experience of a Buddha, of you as a Buddha. There's a lot to merit and wisdom, but the idea is you need to be accumulating merit and wisdom, doing deep practice for 3 countless great eons. That's why.
Let me give a context for the lady I pushed out of the way to get my dulce de leche ice cream. Yeah. So in that state where I see something I desire that ice cream, which is the best thing I could ever get. And there's a barrier. There's this old lady with a cane in my way. And my desire on impulse would be push her out of the way, get the ice cream. The wisdom understanding says, hold on a minute. Because of karma and emptiness, if I do that, I must suffer never getting ice cream again and being pushed out of the way every time I'm close. So because of emptiness, because understanding what karma I'm going to do, I choose to see that lady as being my vehicle to freedom, and I make sure she gets my ice cream, the one that was there for me. And so I naturally, joyfully, from the bottom of my heart, not because I want more ice creams, because I realize, oh my God, the only way we're all getting ice cream is if I make sure this person gets it. And so I'll help her go and get it, might even pay it for her. And the more advanced the stronger I want my virtue or my goodness, I might not just pay it for her, but I might get to see her that she's not an old lady from her own side. She's also empty of a nature. Maybe she's a Buddha appearing as an obstacle to a suffering human being like me, inviting me to practice virtue so I can join the Buddhists like her. And then all of a sudden, I don't offer ice cream, but the sweet taste of dulce de leche is an elixir that Buddhists just rejoice in. And when she gets it, she might give me a tiny look that I know confirms that she actually is someone very special that just got me one step closer to awakening. And I walk out of that place so happy without ice cream. That might be a practice to transform what would be negative karma of want or desire into virtue because of wisdom. Now we've got to do that for 18.5 trillion
For a
years.
crazy long time. So hopefully that just that time sense, thank you, Hector, for adding that in. But yeah, it's exactly that. Sure, you can do that practice for how long, for how many lifetimes, and how can you guarantee that the next time around you're going to want to log on to a Zoom class on a Tuesday evening to remember this stuff, to remember this stuff that you, at some point you knew it. What else would it be calling you here? So how, you can't even guarantee that Dharma would be a proclivity that you have in your next life, that being kind to people or investigating your reality would be something you'd be into. So hopefully, hence the parenthetical, using normal methods. So hopefully that brings you back to, oh, maybe that's why vows are a thing, right? Not normal methods. Let me make a promise. Let me make that karma stronger. And not just any vows. Take all my, I'll take the vows where I'm taking personal responsibility for my life. I'll take the vows when I'm taking personal responsibility for everyone else's life. And I'll take the secret vows, the tantric vows, the fast track vows, because this is just too much time. It's too much time in the washing machine of suffering, going around and around. Okay, I got the thumbs up. A little bit more on time here. So this question is, when do Buddhas appear? I don't want to go too much into the details here. Here are the things to take away, right? And I think this is important. I can't think of another tradition where the tradition itself teaches that those ideas or the practice of those ideas will come to an end in the world, right? It's not, otherwise it's like, here's my presentation, you should believe me and follow me, right? In this case, it's, here's my presentation. One of the core tenets of it is impermanence. And let me tell you, that impermanence applies to the teachings themselves, right? The Buddha actually predicted a time when, it's a lot of detail. It's people will no longer be interested in morality. People will no longer know how to meditate. Predicted the end of the very teachings that they're putting into the world, right? And it so happens that we are approaching that time. But I digress. Here, the question, when do Buddhas appear? The thing to take away, they say that if you like expand your view of reality and time, right, beyond just your generation or the generation before you, and the idea is that beings, we go through cycles based on the length of our lifetime, right? You can see it even just in this world. Think to a few generations ago, lifetimes were different. The idea is that that's because of the karma that those beings have to either live a long time or not, right? Do you have the karma for medicine to work, for vaccines to be invented or not? So the idea is that enlightened beings don't necessarily appear when lifetimes are rising, when people are enjoying, right? And they're not so aware of the ever-present truth of death. They do appear, however, right around now when we're approaching the time when lifespans are at about 100 years on average. And then after that, when lifetimes fall, like between 100 years to 10 years, it's those beings might not have the virtue to see an enlightened person in their world, right? Someone who's like, here, come over here, pay attention. Let me tell you something about the nature of reality. That being said, I just want to caveat all of this. If it's true that my world is a direct reflection of my mind, and if in my mind I am sincerely wishing, investigating, practicing a way out of normal, if I'm constantly looking for teachers, if I'm constantly looking for ways to think about people that are not just me, I will guarantee that enlightened beings will appear for me. If I'm constantly seeding my mind with enlightenment before actual full enlightenment, I'm gonna find beings that'll teach me how to get there. Doesn't matter lifespans or all this stuff about kalpas and you know the rhythm of things. If you have the seeds, the Buddhas will show up. It might take you a while to recognize them, right? There's stories. They might appear like a dog. They might appear like that person who really annoys you. They might appear like the random lady you bumped out of the way to get ice cream, until your mind shifts and sees them in a different way. So that's like the thing I want you to hopefully take away here. Don't get too lost in the time stuff. Speaking of time, I know we're running a little late, Hector, but back to you. Actually, can I say one thing here before you dive in?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you hinted at it in the beginning when you shared your story, but I just wanted to underscore, oh gosh, sorry. I don't want to give it away. Let's go back.
That's okay.
Okay. I'll leave it here. No, I wanted to say how amazing it is to study death meditation, which is what we're going into now. And wow, I'm just giving you all the
You're just giving you all the answers.
Here are all the answers.
Yeah.
Can I just stop this for a second and then I'll reshare it?
Yeah.
I wanted to say how lucky we are to study this particular concept with someone like Hector. And I don't say that lightly. The story he was describing, I've somehow found myself to be near him not once, but twice. Situations where it was like, oh, I'm having this collection of symptoms, and I just want you to know that if I fall sideways, this is what you should do. And you can't fake a moment like that. Like, I was seeing the look in his eyes, and I was hearing the words out of his mouth, and there was joy. Like he said, there was joy and there was certainty. Like, there was a certainty about what he would do when that moment actually comes. And it's like, I don't know, if you're like me, I don't even have certainty about what I'm gonna do when I go home after this class, let alone when the moment of death arrives. So I mean, anytime I'm sharing this stuff, I'm just spewing stuff that I've heard and that I've barely started putting into practice. But this particular thing, like such an important teaching, you're getting to hear it because Hector's doing this next part, not me. You're getting to hear it from someone who's actually put this into practice, like actually done death meditation the way it's meant to be. Meant to be meaning it frees your mind at that inevitable moment to do something else, to do something profound and potentially even beautiful, to the point where you wouldn't call that moment death. You wouldn't. It might look that way for someone else. It might look like he's going to the emergency room, but for him, he's just realm traveling. So I just want to, I mean, I think it's incredible, and it's not, I don't take it lightly that we get to receive this from you. So thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. You're just saying I'm old, so I've had many, many chances to do this, and now I can talk about it. But that's what it is. But thank you, thank you. No, it's true. I don't want it to come off as morbid, but out of all of the Buddhist teachings, the one that's really woken me up, besides the understanding that teachers come from the best part of you and they're an echo to the most stunning wisdom you possess, which is a whole thing, yeah? Understanding, where do your teachers come from? If things are a projection, oh my God, I can't believe I have this goodness. Where does love come from? You know, like the good side, the nice things. I'm happy and enjoy I would have called a sort of a morbid understanding or investigation of death. You know, nobody talks about it. I think it's like the only inevitable thing. And these Buddhist practices have so much. They have power practices. They have complete mandalas around death and dying. The Buddha really gave a ton of teachings on what to do at this time. But the key again is karma and emptiness, karma. And I've had the good fortune of wanting to figure it out. I've seen my mum die. I've seen my dad die. I've seen my godmother die. You know, I've had a couple of near-death experiences, and the death meditations that will that will cover, um, will, it's really a freedom for when that moment approaches or when you get close. And I want to say this before I share the death meditation. Yeah. Death meditation is not about recreating the possibility of fear and of dying and getting scared. It's not that. That will come up naturally. You don't have to even try and like you'll be scared shitless. Don't worry. So don't try. That's not the point of a Buddhist death meditation. A Buddhist death meditation should get you how to take the essence of this life and really live moment to moment, moment to moment. Yeah. So one thing I didn't tell you when I had that episode in the meditation teacher training graduation where I nearly fell over, Diego, who's here, was in front of me at the moment. And he was at that moment that my whole right side went numb and I was going to fall over and things went blurry and I couldn't hear anything. And I'm like, wow, I think I'm having a heart attack. And then Diego's like, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't hear him. He's like, blah, 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 blah. And all my mind fixated on was the shine in his eyes, the glistening of his eyes, so excited to be amongst friends. He was talking about whatever he was talking about. I think it was let's eat together, but he was excited about being at Three Jewels with everyone, graduating, telling the stories. His heart was pouring with joy, his smile. And I'm like, oh, these are the last few, this might be the last few projections I get in this life. So I'm just going to stare at him and just look at him for what he possibly could be. And all I could remember the last few things were the glistening of his eyes and joy. I'm like, is there a Buddha behind there? Is there something? So my mind didn't do that because I forced it. My mind did that because I trained it over years to look for that. And it's a nice confirmation that when trouble strikes, that your mind would do that. You know, and I have had a few opportunities to do that. And it was actually quite blissful. It was actually stunning. I'm like, where else do I want to die? I don't want to die anywhere else. This is the perfect place. Let me drop dead in the middle of Three Jewels in front of angels that are talking about how their minds can transform reality. That's where you want to go if you want to go anywhere. Fortunately, nothing happened. I was good. You know, it just took 6 hours or more, 12, 10 hours to test and do the rest. But I was aware that when I went to the emergency room, those realms were not happening for everyone else, that people were gripped in fear. I could hear it. Yeah. They were screaming. They didn't know what was going on. They were doubled over. And I was feeling pain and I was feeling numbness and I was feeling all the things you feel when your body is afflicted, but my mind was not. And so, and I've done it before. I've also had a previous near experience and my mind was not. I share this just because I can waste time. Sorry. I'll share this for a sec. There was a moment where I'd been practicing all this way of thinking about your life being a projection and death being transformable. It's also a projection. It doesn't have to be this way. So you habituate. You do these death meditations. Yeah. And I knew I had a result happen when I had a dream of dying in the dream. My car was rolling out from a cliff and slow motion happened. And I knew for certain this was it. In this life, I will die. And right in front of the windscreen, the windshield, what do you, windscreen? Yeah. Floated my teacher just in meditation posture with this stunning smile and love. And as the car turned, he turned and like it was just his eyes and my eyes and everything else could be what I didn't care. And he was just smiling at me and I was smiling. And in my dream, I was really just in awe of him just saying, I'm with you. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. Let's see what happens to the parts, right? To the body and the legs and the thing. But there was such clarity in the dream of what it could be like to go through whatever this body's going to go through. Hopefully it won't be under a bus. But if it is, I know that I've got these seeds in my mind, that kind of certainty to do that. So that's how I knew I had a result from having done all these death meditations. And after that, honestly, there was no fear. And I've been close and there was no fear. Yeah. And I hope that for everyone. If there's nothing, if there's nothing else you train your minds to do, it's like stop the state of mind that would create fear, grasping, and all the negative emotions, because that follows you after death. The body dies, consciousness doesn't stop. Your next reality will be forced by the kind of state of mind you leave this planet with. At least that's the theory in Buddhist thought. Yeah, that if you're in a state of bliss and wisdom, you're more likely to generate your next projection in that state, especially if you understand what makes it. And if you don't understand what produces your world and you're grasping at dulce de leche reality to stay alive or think about the things you want in your home or whatever, you're going to have to get a life that is congruent with that state of mind that flips over when the body finishes. So having said that, let's quickly go through death meditation, right? So there's a couple of things we should consider. We should consider what's the problem, and I'm just going to let you think about what you think these might be. What would be the problems of not meditating on death? Living an entire life and then surprisingly going, guess what? You're going to die of this. Or guess what? This happened to you and you're going to die. So consider the problems of not thinking about death at all before it comes. It's the only certainty. Yeah. To go into a completely unknown thing because you've ignored it your whole life. And yet it is the destination for this body anyway. And your consciousness must experience that. So what's the problems of not meditating on death? And then we have to consider what's the benefits? What would be good about gently, correctly placing your mind on death and its consequences? Okay, like you wouldn't go on a journey without that you didn't know where. Like if I told you you're going on a plane, but you don't know where you're landing and you don't know how long you're going to, you're not going to just show up to the airplane with nothing, but you're definitely not showing up in the airplane with everything you've got in your home. Yeah, if you're going to go with just the important things. So considering the benefits of meditating on death is like, if I understand the best I can understand about that process, then I know what to take. I know what to collect between now and that moment in this life. And then it's important to realize what kind of death awareness, because you can have all sorts of awarenesses of death. You can cultivate many of them, and some of them can be dark. You could cultivate the immense suffering that the body might go through in certain deaths. You might contemplate the horrible feeling of attachment that one must have if you've collected things your whole life and then you've got to let them all go. Or if you've got deep regret, or if you've got guilt, whatever, you can contemplate on those, and they are death awarenesses. You can be aware of those things of death, but that's not the one you want to cultivate. Yeah, so we should be aware of the ones we don't want to cultivate. Yeah, and how to meditate and develop the right death awareness is what we'll cover next. So here's what not to focus on, and I think I covered it just now. It's not, you don't want to generate panic and fear and all that stuff. That's not the point of it, right? It'll just generate more human samsara and more attachment to me. What you do want to cultivate is these three, what is it? Awareness, learning. Yeah. Understand what will affect this experience of life and post-death. What is it that will affect it? And this is what the contemplations on death are. I'm moving along. Yeah. And they really are three. Consider for real, right? As if as if you didn't know your life was going to end. Recognize death is actually certain. Like it's a guaranteed thing. As soon as you've got a body like this, you have to let it go. It will die. Physically, it will stop. It doesn't regenerate. There's nothing you can do to physically keep this body. Sorry. As soon as it was born, it had death in it. It had that monster around the wheel of life. As soon as you had it. And then there are three reasons beneath the death is certain. Three things to think about. But get that clear. Yeah. And it should give you a kind of pang, but not a fear. It should go, okay, there is a fact. The fact is death is coming. It's certain. Yeah. And then think through this, that nothing can stop it when it comes, right? Every rich person, doesn't matter how much money you have, like, doesn't matter. Nothing can stop it. When it comes, nothing can stop it. You can't add even a second of time when it comes. It's done. There's nothing you can extend. And there's no time between now and when it comes to really do the countless eons of development so you are free. There's no time in this life to generate enough virtue and wisdom to liberate yourself completely from the clutches of impermanence. If you're honest with yourself, if you think that life is a projection, the amount of projections that are required for just a shitty human life is extraordinary compared to an animal that's being eaten all the time. Yeah, like farm animals and the rest. The karmas of those beings and the karmas of ours, they're still suffering. We just go through our particular suffering, and there's no time to keep generating the karmas that would liberate us from even this human suffering that just tastes like honey on a razor blade. So the first contemplation is like, shit, this is certain. That should have implications on your life, right? Then the next thing is, but hold on, the time is uncertain. You don't know when it's coming. And I hope some of you have had the reality check that it's not old people that die, and it's not just sick people that die. Babies die. Children die. Healthy people die. Adventurers die. Generous people die. There's no certainty as to when it comes. You can try and avoid it, right? You can try and go, I'll go in the luxury part of the Titanic because it's nicest. Sorry. I'm not gonna go in the shitty little boats between England and the US. I'm going on the Titanic. It's really beautiful. Yeah. Sorry. It's uncertain when it comes, and that's for sure. So get that clear. It should motivate you to go, okay, there's something here. It's certain, but I don't know when. That should give you a little wake up. Yeah. So lifespans are not fixed. You can die young or old. There's lots of things that'll kill you, like tiny little green things with hairs called coronas. Yeah. Like, seriously, a tiny little thing or a small insect bite that gives you something. It's not like, oh, you need a mountain to fall on you, you know? So the body's easily hurt and few things keep us alive. Think of those things. And then the last one is, if you are understanding that reality is but a projection and this body is gone and you're left with consciousness with all the seeds you've planted, then you get real about the only thing that can help you is the stuff in your consciousness. And you don't have time to push old ladies out of the ice cream line. You just don't have time because you can't afford that seed. Doesn't matter how much you want ice cream. You cannot afford the seed of harming a single person. Not if you want to transform the experience beyond death is certain and I don't know when it's coming. You're responsible for doing something that will open up that doorway, because it'll open, but what's on the other side of the doorway is currently, if you're alive, right now, if you're alive, you're writing the story that's beyond that door right now by everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do. And if you want that door to be enlightenment, it'll take you a bloody long time unless you do it amplified. And the most amplified is the understanding of wisdom, emptiness, that gives you the mechanics to transform everything. Until then, it's random lottery. Every shitty thing you've ever done, thought, or said in this life or before is up for grabs to determine what's on the other side of that door for you. If you want to improve your odds, then you're going to come to some resolutions once you understand these three main principles and 9 reasons, right? So to sort of amp up the last 3 reasons, that the only thing that can help is the stuff in your mind. Friends and relatives can't be by your side. There's nothing they can do. Chelsea came with me in the meditation teacher training, and she sat next to me and talked and made me laugh, but I was having my own stories. There's nothing she was going to do to stop the thing that was happening to my body. I know no material possession. Like, I'll give you a truckload of gold if you stop the dying, please, doctor. Like, it's not going to happen. Sorry. Okay, I'll give you 2 truckloads of gold. I'll give you my Instagram likes. my status as a famous person. Please stop the dying. Ain't gonna happen at all. Yeah, and our bodies obviously can't help. At some point, they stop, and so the only thing you've got left is the perception that is left behind, and those perceptions you cannot control in the moment. Sorry, you only create habits that appear at that moment. And I shared at the beginning, I've got a couple of verifications that I've got good habits. 25 years of practice, dead mom, dead dad, dead friends, dead. I've seen death, near death. Like I've had the opportunity, not dead yet, but I've had the opportunity to come close enough to remind me that it's certain, but I don't know when it's coming. And the only thing I can do to draw the picture on the other side of that door is the karmas I plant. And the best karma I know how to plant is teach other people how to get free of suffering. Like for me, right? I don't know what yours is going to do. You could paint and give people inspiration to freedom and think about it in a specific way. You could do accounting and imagine people are free when they get whatever you creatively do to practically help other people not suffer. You can infuse that with wisdom. So Priya, we can move to the next thing. So these three, death is certain, the time is uncertain, the only thing left is in your mind. You come to these three kind of um, realizations, yeah? And this is knowing that I must die, I've got to start some practice right now, the practice of putting things in my consciousness that will paint the picture on the other side of the door the way I would like it to be, not some random way that I don't know how it's going to be. Because all things being equal, it's probably not going to be nice because I just used a whole bunch of nice seeds to create a human life that just finished. We're using a vast amount of good karmas to just breathe a human life and think it like a human thinks and see pens and not chew toys. And knowing that we could die at any time, you really stop wasting your time with things that are unimportant. And I think that's one of the greatest teachings out of the COVID times. Everyone got a dose of this one, right? The unimportant stuff in your life quickly went out the window after you had your little fits or depression or anxiety or whatever we all have. Oh my God, life is changing. After we've had a bit of that, you're like, hold on, what's really important to me? We all got a taste of that. This is the blessing of COVID. The realization that, hold on, shit can happen at any time. What's important? Yeah. So you stop chasing ice cream and you start looking to help Buddhists that are in your way of ice cream. Yeah. And you begin the practice now. Like it could come tonight. So what am I putting in my mind between now and tonight? It could come tomorrow. What will I do between now and tomorrow? And then knowing that nothing else can help you but these mental seeds, then we say only Dharma can help you. But Dharma just means it's not just for Buddhists. I want to really get that to your minds. It's not that you have to be a Buddhist. It's like you have to put the right seeds in your mind to wake up to Buddha, right? To make sure you paint the right picture on the other side of the door. Dharma is just the ultimate Dharma is your understanding of how reality functions. Things are empty of a nature and they appear to me forced by what I've done, said, and thought. So my actions of body, speech, and mind with the understanding of wisdom are going to fabricate a reality in this life, but most importantly, when that door opens once death comes. So the point of this death meditation should get a fire under your ass like you've never had before. Or if you're older like me, you've had fires under your ass before and you're like, oh yeah, but I've got time. You don't have time. Especially if you're older, it's unlikely. Yeah. So whatever it is that you have to connect to that fire in your belly that said, oh, life can have a purpose and meaning and excitement and love and all these great things, you want to plant that stuff. And you can start today. That's, I feel like I'm doing an ad for, and you can get 2 steak knives. Start today, and we'll give you 3 steak knives. Well, mushroom knives. Yeah. Um, is that making sense, or did I go too wild on you? Is that like landing loud and clear? Yeah, good. I it just if you're new to these ideas, it can sound trippy, but you can't break the logic that you're having a reality that's individual to you, and therefore you want to change that reality. Change what you put in your consciousness. Something's recording everything you say, think, and do. Make sure what's being recorded is the highest virtue, the biggest kindness you can afford to do. Don't kill yourself doing it, because that's what you want to avoid. Yeah. And at that point, when the door opens, you may not perceive death as death. You may perceive it as a step to something greater, like every change. Yeah. And then that's just a sutra, a minimum level of practice. There's so much more. You want to go to the breakout rooms, or we don't have time? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we should talk about it because we only have 30 minutes. I'm looking at Pavan. I hope this addresses your question from the beginning, Pavan. For those who missed it, this is the death meditation, right? So like to Hector's point, it's not when I fall asleep, I'm going to imagine what dying is like and, see purple lights and there's my death meditation. It's not that. It's actually these 3 resolutions. They say, think about it when you brush your teeth in the morning. And then at that time, decide not what if I died today, but rather I am going to die today. Like decide a time, be like 6 p.m. I'm going to die. And you might as well, you don't know. There's just as much certainty that it will happen as that it won't. And you decide the time, you know these 3 resolutions, and then you live your life, you live your day, and you see what you would do differently. So I was just thinking of you, Baba, when you asked the question. That's the answer. I hope you heard that there. I don't know. What should we do for 30 minutes? I feel like that would rush breakout rooms. I wonder if we could just open it up here and have a conversation, Q&A. I see some nods. Does that feel good? Yeah, let's do that. Maybe I'll open up the chat so it doesn't go totally bonkers.
So someone should monitor the chat, because I'm not going to read it. I can hardly see you guys in front of me. But that's cool. Let's have a Q&A about death and dying and the practices associated with it. But hopefully you get that it's a uplifting opportunity, fire under your ass, to really get perspective about what we're doing with our precious human life.
Oh yeah, actually, can I say something to that as the questions roll in? So if you have something like really specific that you want answered, chat me privately, like directly, and I'll sift through those things. To your point just now, Hector, to say, I've heard this teaching a few times, this death meditation thing, and it's like, you should do this every day. And I've even taught it, but obviously I don't do it every day. I can remember the handful of times I've done it. But really interesting things happen every time I actually try to do this. I thought in the beginning it would just cause me to quit my job, buy myself a one-way ticket to Goa, do all those things on my bucket list. And it's so beautiful because it actually, what it did was, for a while I indulged some bucket list items, and then I realized my stupid bucket list, that's not even the way I'm going to get happy. Right? What thinking about death shakes up all that stuff that's clogging up our minds by not thinking about death, just the mundane stuff. So you get a sense of clarity. But then if you do a real death meditation, I think you realize that the stuff that you think you were putting off, the stuff on your bucket list, even that's not going to work. And hopefully that gets you into that mindset of renunciation. That's right. Oh, now I can actually begin focusing on what matters, on what's important. And you don't have to quit your job to do that. I've had the most beautiful work days when I've held a death meditation in my mind, because it wasn't just a meeting. It wasn't just an email. It wasn't just asking someone how their day was. It was, what if this is the last seed I'm planting now? Let me make it a good one. So just wanted to share, it can be fun. It's really fun, actually. It kind of electrifies your life from the inside out. Wow, lots of chats. Okay, I'm just going to read through them to try to find some common themes.
While you're doing that, I'll answer one that I read from Maya, which I like, because she goes to the heart of the problem.
Okay.
You want to stop death, dying, and any suffering at all. You have to stop the pig in the center of the wheel of life, the hub of the hub, misunderstanding your world, specifically misunderstanding reality, how things are. And her question was something like, can that stop? Can we stop misunderstanding? Is that right, Maya? Let me look at it. Is misunderstanding inevitable? Could there be a being that doesn't first misunderstand and later wake up? So if you are in samsara, if you are in a realm that things are up and down and good things go away and good and bad things come to you and then they go away, and you are unsure how to make them stay, then misunderstanding is there. Not knowing that things are a projection because things don't have a nature is misunderstanding. You can wake up from that misunderstanding, but your question specifically was, could there come a being that had no misunderstanding and later wake up? No, that is, having no misunderstanding is the Buddha in Buddha, is the Buddha in Buddha. So if there was a being whose consciousness truly understood projections because things don't have a nature and therefore everything is a reflection of what's in their mind, if they don't have suffering, they're woke, they're awake. So the whole, and I like that question because the whole game is, you can start trimming the branches of this poison tree called misunderstanding or samsara, but the root of it is misunderstanding. If you keep chopping the branches, it's like, I don't want the suffering of old age, so I'll keep wearing masks. Or I think don't want the suffering of being jealous, so you stop jealousy. Don't worry, you have 84,000 other mental afflictions, 83,999 to go. Yeah, you've got craving, you've got all sorts, you get anger, you've got 1,000 other things that your mind will do. And that's just trimming the branches. If you really want to go to the root and really crush samsara like an elephant crushing a house of reeds, then you want to go straight to the thing that forces us to misunderstand reality. And that takes training, but it's doable in this life, in one lifetime, to get such a instinctual understanding of emptiness, meaning everything that's in your way, good things and bad things, are only there as a direct mirror echo, amplified, of what's in your consciousness. Not to feel guilty, or it's just to say that's what it is. If that's the case, then I can transform it. How? Don't react to negativity with negativity. Will instantly start slashing any negativity in your world. Doesn't matter how bad it is. It's still a projection. Yes, but it's unfair. Doesn't matter how unfair it is. It's still your projection. But why me? Doesn't matter why me. It's still your projection. Don't react with me to why me, because you're going to get more me. Yeah, and it really is liberating. Yeah, really. But there's a ethical dilemma, and I've got a problem. That's your projection. Stop it. Stop it before you're dead. Because when you're dead, you don't know if you're going to have any residue of this wisdom that you're getting to see. The mechanics of genuinely the creator of your universe, but you didn't know it. So misunderstanding is the poison in the center of the wheel that makes that suffering change. Stepping through that doorway dissolves the entire realm, makes it disappear. Or you could take 84 constant, whatever eons, what is it, 18.5 quadrillion, bazillion goodnesses, and which you won't do, a bloody long time. You could take that long to slowly peel away the suffering. If you really want to pierce through it, you can do it by going to have the direct perception of reality, emptiness. And for that, you need to meditate. You need to have the virtue to be able to meditate. You need to serve other people in the biggest capacity you can find yourself doing it, but don't hurt yourself in the process. Stupid, right? Because you're also one other person. And if there was a summary, if there's ever a summary, the summary is understand what emptiness is and what it's not. And then with that understanding, don't push ladies out of the way. Treat them as gods and give them ice cream. What questions do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to consolidate a few questions into one. And I like it because we've been talking in this class about how do I do a death meditation, right? How do I hold my mind? And a couple of questions about how do we help others cultivate this frame of mind? So very specifically, how do we share these ideas with non-Buddhists, but in the same way where it feels like that bucket of cold water to the face where you'd actually do something about it. And then also a question, which I can answer this quickly, about what can we do to those who are close to us, around us, that are at that point, at the point of death. So this goes back to, remember the last suffering we talked about last class, where it's true, we're going to die alone. You really are, because you are the flow of your karma, right? No one else can affect that flow. You can't affect anyone else's. It doesn't mean that we don't interact, that we don't share this experience, that we can't affect each other. But when it comes to the seeds in your mind, those are your responsibility, and only you can change them. And so the same goes for someone else who you perceive at the experience of death or at the precipice. What I've heard there, and this was, I thought, really beautiful, is what you can do is nudge or guide their mind. So if they don't themselves have a practice, right, if they don't have a lifetime of training, so that instinctually at that time, they gravitate their minds towards goodness or wisdom or their teacher, what you can do is remind them. So I think of that like, people on their deathbed, that's why you would want to bring them joy. That's why you'd want to keep their minds uplifted, remind them of the times in their life that they showed up as a bodhisattva. Don't use that word, but the feeling behind it, right? And you can also use that yourself. They say that once someone's passed, or even when someone's close, just the energy of your mind bringing to mind those memories could help nudge their mind, right? Think about that intermediate Bardo space where it's just minds. So that sort of gets at that. But Hector, could you address the question of how do we inspire someone else to do a death meditation without
Yeah.
using any of those words?
Yeah. So can I add a little bit to what you just said?
Yeah.
So when my mum died and was going through 2.5 months of cancer and slowly dying, and the same with my dad, I don't want to make them a Buddhist. They have a consciousness like all of us, yeah, and that consciousness was slowly withdrawing, yeah, from the house to the inside, and so on. I knew I had to try and maintain sometimes against her instincts, as much virtue in her mind. So the likelihood that when she opened the door, it was filled with the highest things she possessed. And the more you know someone, the more you know their archetypes. Yeah. She wasn't a Buddhist, but what's the idea behind a Buddhist, right? What's the result of Buddhist? What's a paradise? What's bliss? What's eternity? What's etc. So I knew she was going. When she was younger, she was going to be a nun. Obviously, that didn't work. Yeah, because I'm her son. But she was going to be a nun, so she devout Catholic. I knew that she knew the practice of the rosary. So I found this special silver rosary of someone special and so on, gave it to her, and you could see her eyes connect. And she had this kind of excitement, this kind of joy that, oh, this is my grounding. You want to give them some certainty, some peace of mind, and some virtue. Yeah. What are the good things that you can bring to your mind? So that's what you see on the other side of the thing. And if they're not going to say that, I'm in pain, or I didn't do this, or I feel guilty, that's what they're going to do in the death process, to the point sometimes of anger and hatred and yelling at their partner. Like, I've seen it all. Your job, to the best of your ability, is just to skillfully bring their minds to the highest thing, to the sweetest thing that you know about them. That's how you can help someone near that process. And then it's true, there's practices you can do after they're no longer embodied. As soon as you bring them to mind, they're actually there because they travel at the speed of mind until they reincarnate. And so it's important for you to bring to mind, not, I'm so depressed and oh my God, I'm going to miss you. You don't want that. You can save that for later. Yeah. It's not, if anything, I learned it's not the most responsible thing I could do to take care of them. It's like, I hold my shit together for your sake. And it's also good for my mind to say, Mum, you did the most stunning, beautiful things. It's such a better way to go. Mum, you moved us from Argentina to Australia, and because of that, I can speak English, play the flute, run a business. Mum, you didn't kick me out like you wanted to when I came out gay. You loved me and became an advocate. And you helped other, like all the goodnesses that I knew she was proud of. Those are the conversations. Other things you could do is put their favorite music on. Sound is a very important thing. So I put all her childhood songs, and you could see the smile in her eyes and the tears coming. You knew you were affecting their mind. That's what you want to do there. And then the other answer to the questions, what can we do? And you're going to hate my answer, but it's the right answer. You got to be an example of living your life with those three resolutions. So learn them, really learn them, and practice. You're not going to force anyone around you to do it just because you think it's a good idea because you went to some stupid Buddhist class at Three Jewels that talked about death and the realms. You're like, oh, that sounds really good. Now I want to tell everybody to do it. No, you got to do it. And once you see it and once you live it, which can take you a long time if you have it, that's the only way other people will be inspired to say, well, wait, hold on, what are you doing? Then you can drop hints and whatever, but not until you know it. Yeah. Don't go say, go listen to Hector at Three Jewels about death, and then you not do anything about it. You have to be an example. Like so many of these Buddhist teachings. And your particular flavor of being an example is going to be different to mine, different to Supriya's. It'll be your stunning flavor of how you overcame your fears and transformed them into an opportunity. So when the door opens on the other side, your paradise is very different to mine. It has your nuance, your stunningness, the faces of the beings that inspired you, the flavors, the emotions, the abiding in bliss isn't, you can't have my bliss. Yeah, you'd hate my bliss. All of you would walk in through the door and be filled with Timothy Chalamet's. You're like, get me out of here, right? Zach is like, I'm going to your bliss. But you see what I mean? Like, you have to do the work. Yeah. It wasn't really Timothy and Chalamet. It was Stephen. Yeah, it was full of Stevens. Yeah, sorry, Stephen. I can't see him, so I don't know if he's angry or happy. So I hope that answered seriously, right? Seriously is you transform your karma until you know with certainty. Then you can share. That's the best thing you can do. You don't have time to do anything else. We're not knocking on doors with the Bible. We're not doing that. You can't force that karma into someone else's mind. It ain't gonna work. So I'm sorry if you hated that answer.
I didn't, but that's my karma. Another question, I'll take a stab at it and please patch the holes, Hector. So a question around, it's like what Javier said last class, right? That when you find yourself, let's say in a car accident, in an emergency, at the start of the pandemic, the thing you did without thinking, right? That instinct. If we stop and analyze it, that instinct didn't come out of nowhere. We trained it. We've had that instinct because of the way we've acted in the past. So if all this is true, and you could boil down all these practices into one thing, what's the one thing I should just keep coding into my mind so that the instinct at the inevitable time of death, it's spontaneous rather than, oh, wow, it's happening. Okay, let me remember back to what I learned in that ACI class. What are all those bullet points? And you're struggling to get there. So what's that one thing? And for me, what I'll say there is it's the highest thing you connect with. So what I mean there is like one of the benefits of a death meditation is that it trims the fat of your practice. It actually, because we're all collectors of practices, right? Some more than others, but you think of that like, oh, I have this little spiritual toolbox. And at times you might actually be overwhelmed by it. You're doing 5 different meditation practices and reading all these scriptures. And yeah, like Javier, you're carrying this big backpack of, sure, it's not worldly stuff. It's all my spiritual stuff. It's all my practices I've collected, and those won't help you either. So the idea, actually, if we can habituate a death awareness all the time, it should make us really clear and laser focused on, of all those practices, which are the ones that come naturally to me, that I actually, that challenge my mind in the right way, which are the ones I can connect to and put into practice. And they'll be different for all of us, which is perfect because our minds are all different. So of course the karmas, like puzzle pieces, are going to connect in a different way. So I'd say, of all the things you've learned, what's the thing that turns you on the most? What's the one that seems closest to the thing that would flop you from unenlightened to enlightened? That's the thing I would say, make it a daily habit. Seek out the teachers who do exactly that and learn from them, beg them for teachings. That's the thing I would code in my mind in a strong way so that it flowers for me at that moment as instinct or spontaneous. I think that thing should have to do with emptiness. It should have to do with your teacher. And it should have to do with giving an F about other people. So there was a question in the chat about what's the difference between nirvana and death. And so I guess we didn't necessarily go into it yet in this course, but the difference between nirvana and complete enlightenment, it's bodhicitta. It's that feeling of, oh, it's not just me that has to die. It's not just me that for whom all this stuff is the truth. Every single person that you passed today on the street, or every single person you saw on a Zoom call, this is true for them too. And maybe they're not aware of it yet. Maybe they're completely blind to it. Can you, in that moment, like what Hector was doing in the emergency room, can you actually think about others during the moment where you yourself are being pulled away from yourself? Is your bodhicitta so strong, so habituated that it could even come up at that time? So I would propose that that should be one of the, like, of all the things, wisdom, emptiness, bodhicitta, and something to do with your teacher. Not just any old teacher, the teacher that taught you that it's possible to wake up, that teacher.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would say out of all the things in my early practice, because it's exciting to do all these practices, right? But the one that is going to be the sustaining thing is the understanding of emptiness and projections. If you get that, you'll stop doubting, questioning, fighting against all the nominal things. It'll be like running through honey without the understanding of karma and emptiness, which is what makes everything work. That's why I keep saying it's the key. So whatever you need to do to understand that, and then apply it to, doesn't matter what appears in front of me, in my mind or in my external world, I have to see it as a projection. That's what I'll practice. And then you're inquisitive and investigative around your reality, even a death moment or a near-death experience or a scary thing. How is this a projection? If you habituate that, you are free from being hooked and reacting to the circumstance. But they lied to me, but they were angry at me. None of it will hook you and force you to do negativity. Because you're forever the scientist going, oh, how interesting. What kind of shitty karma must I have planted or must I have in my mind to have a liar as a boss? Interesting. You're not going to get lost in fighting the boss, which will create negative karma. You're going to be like, oh, I'm so intrigued. And meanwhile, you have to talk to the boss and go, oh, yeah, I see. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. But you're not really engaged being hooked by the suffering cycle. You're instead transforming everything into where's the wisdom in it? Where's the reality in it? Where's the real reality in it? You do that enough, you're home free. Now you're not home free until you have that experience viscerally. So that you need meditation, serving, connecting to teachers and the rest. Really, you do. Yeah.
One last question.
Hmm?
I said one last question, but sorry, you were in the middle of a train of thought.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about bodhicitta, but that's okay. Let's go to the question.
It'll probably come in the answer to this question. So I'm trying to combine two things. Someone has a question around thinking about the magnitude of time that it would take so long using normal methods. How do you consider human evolution in that amount of time, or societal evolution? And how would you possibly go from that magnitude of time to enlightenment in a single lifetime?
Yeah, so good. And it is a door for me to share what I was going to share. There are countless practices for all of the Buddhist things, okay? And just like death meditation, we just gave you the very simplistic, death is certain, time's uncertain, get your ass together to put things in your mind that will help you. That'll take a long time. There's also this thing called pole practices and the five powers, and you can do this too, right? If you know that your mind will separate from the body at the time of death, then every time you have a death-like experience, like falling asleep, yeah, like going into a nap, try and think, what if this was a death? How do I habituate at this moment the understanding that this is a projection? And when I wake up, how do you associate that moment with I've just gone through the door and what are my karmas? Yeah. And so you can, there's levels and levels of practices. There's more and more of those practices. So this is just the beginning, but you got to investigate it. But know that there are amplifications that get faster results and faster results because the practices are much deeper. But you can't go jumping into those without karma and emptiness. Without the foundation, doing those weird things is just more samsara. Yeah. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Secondly, have you ever had a moment, an aha moment, where you thought things were a certain way, and then all of a sudden they're like, shit, that's nothing. Like you're having a conversation with someone, you're pretty sure you're understanding each other, you're comfortable, oh, that's great. And then they say that one thing and you're like, that's not at all what we were talking about. I don't know if you've had that experience or, yeah, that realization can be the same for time. That realize, like, when you're constantly projecting your current perception of time, you put the right courses, and at some moment that projection can flip, and it could feel like that, like time is empty of a nature. The past and the present and the future don't have the nature that I think they have, don't have that solidity, and in one single instant you can be free of time. If you still got karmas for time, you could then come back into time and continue to see, but you just saw something. You just saw there's another reality, and that's all you need, really. You need one of these epiphanies, one of these ahas, either in relation to emptiness or time or awakening. Like, if karmas are a projection, constantly mental images moving, giving you a experience of self, and then you had one massive projection, which is just another one, where you're like, oh, I'm having a different conversation than I thought I was. My reality completely shifted. You can have that about being a human. You can have that about living. You can have that about everything. Your mind is just having projections. You will have one about death. If you leave it unattained, there'll be a moment where you're projecting being alive, and then gradually the projections change and you're in an emergency theater, and gradually the projections change and you can't move the arms, but you're still inside there thinking that you're something. And then there'll be a projection where things go dark, and then you'll go through some dissolution process, and then you'll have a projection where things are different, and then you have a projection of something else. But so that will happen if you leave it untamed. Everything is changeable, but only if you know where the source is, where you change, and it's in your consciousness. Stop chasing butterflies. Stop chasing the world out there. It ain't going to change the projections, except in the way you're engaging with the things out there, and that's what we misunderstand. We think the ice cream is the happiness. The happiness is seeing the previously annoying lady who's taking a bloody long time asking for the bloody ice cream, and all you want is the dulce de leche, seeing that these are just projections and you're sick and tired of them producing suffering for you and everyone else. So you stop. You see that because she's empty, she could be a Buddha begging you to stop. Because the ice cream is empty, all the goodness you see in there, you want her down her throat with joy. So you pay for it and you give it to her. And then that's an act of truth. And you're more satisfied than you would ever have been if you downed the whole ice cream. And that's true for time and for how long it takes to practice. It takes until you wake up. That's how long it takes. It takes until you have an aha. And the ahas don't come from doing a thing. It comes from the seeds you've planted of giving other people ahas. It's a stunning, perfect thing, this wisdom. You want to wake up? Help other people wake up to whatever level you know. The world's yours. It always was. Shall we dedicate? Before my computer's on 2%, it's going to die.
Yeah.
My computer's going to go through a Bardo process. Yeah.
Just before, in case anyone is like leaving right after we dedicate, I'll just request, please be on time on Thursday. We are actually combining 2 classes worth of content into one. We have to do that given the scheduling. And so I'm going to say this now, we will begin class at 7:35 sharp. So please, please, please be on time this Thursday. Thank you. And now we'll dedicate. Let me share my screen. That is as close to a threat as I'm allowed to get in a Buddhist class. Whoever chatted that.
Diego, do you want to do it? Just because you were close to death with me?
Sashi Puki Jushin Metokchan Virab Lingshi Ninde Genpadi Sangye Shindu Te Wardi Roku Namdak Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ragna Mandala Kaniyatayami Gewadi Gewoku Sunam Yeshe Soksok Shing Sunam Yeshe Lejun Wei Dampa Kuni Topar Sho.
It's awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for letting me rant also.
Thank you for ranting. Please keep ranting.
Yeah. Good. Love you too, Anna. Thank you.